Russian President Vladimir Putin has announced a temporary 32-hour ceasefire in Ukraine to coincide with the Orthodox Easter weekend, framing it as a humanitarian pause intended to allow religious observance during ongoing fighting. According to the Kremlin, Russian forces are instructed to halt offensive operations from 4 p.m. local time on Saturday through the end of Sunday, covering a key religious period observed in both Russia and Ukraine. The announcement states that military units should suspend active operations across all directions while remaining on alert and authorized to respond to any perceived threats or violations, indicating that the pause is conditional in practice and dependent on battlefield interpretations. The timing follows repeated calls from Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky for temporary reductions in hostilities during religious holidays, including proposals for mutual restraint and avoidance of strikes on critical infrastructure, such as energy systems, with diplomatic communication involving the United States acting as an intermediary in broader discussions between the two sides. Ukraine has not issued an immediate formal response to the ceasefire declaration, though officials have previously expressed skepticism toward unilateral Russian announcements, citing past instances where temporary truces were declared, but fighting continued. Ukrainian representatives, including Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiha, have supported the concept of holiday pauses in principle, but insist that any ceasefire must be reciprocal, verifiable, and enforced through mutual agreement rather than unilateral orders. Zelensky has argued that even brief pauses could provide humanitarian relief to civilians facing ongoing disruptions to electricity, heating, and essential services caused by sustained strikes on infrastructure, though Ukrainian officials emphasize that lack of trust and repeated violations undermine confidence in such arrangements. The ceasefire comes amid continued intense fighting across a front line stretching roughly 1,250 kilometers, with active combat in eastern and southern regions, and no decisive breakthrough by either side after years of attritional warfare following Russia's 2022 full-scale invasion. Recent months have seen continued drone, missile, and artillery attacks, including strikes on Ukrainian cities that have damaged infrastructure and caused civilian casualties, while Russia maintains that its operations target military assets. Millions of civilians have been displaced, and infrastructure damage has created ongoing humanitarian challenges, particularly for energy and healthcare systems. Previous ceasefire attempts during symbolic or religious periods have frequently broken down amid mutual accusations of violations, contributing to deep mistrust and the absence of effective monitoring mechanisms. International mediation efforts led by the United States and supported by European partners have achieved limited progress, focusing on humanitarian measures and exploratory negotiations, but major disagreements persist over territorial control and security guarantees. Ukraine continues to demand restoration of its territorial integrity, while Russia maintains claims over occupied regions and seeks political concessions. The Easter ceasefire is being closely monitored for compliance, but analysts warn that without independent verification, localized incidents or misinterpretations could quickly escalate and undermine the pause. The coming period is expected to determine whether the announcement produces a meaningful reduction in violence or becomes another short-lived and contested interruption in a prolonged and unresolved conflict with significant regional and global implications.